I want to talk to you for a few minutes about Cameron and Quinn, Diagnosing and Changing Organizational Culture, the reading for this week. It's really the rest of the book. It's scheduled as chapters 5, 6, and 7, but I also want to look at some of the appendices in the back. Page 83. If you will look at the second paragraph in this chapter, we provide a useful methodology for identifying what needs to change in an organization's culture and for developing a strategy to initiate change in key elements. Now, the next sentence, underline. The methodology, here it is, relies on a process of dialogue among individuals charged with initiating and managing the change. In organizational development, of which organizational culture is a part, we in that field, we have a motto. It's not the product, it's the process. And that process of dialogue is really what carries out the changes that you're after. So keep that clear in mind. It is not giving a test and it's not creating a plan. It's the process of assessing and discussing, the process of creating the plan that matters. Now, he mentions on page 84, about halfway down, in Appendix B, and he actually means Appendix D, so you want to make that change. If you want to turn with me, actually it's Appendix C and D. Page 185 is the first of these to look at. Hints for initiating organizational culture change in each quadrant. That's on page 185. And these are really good. For each of the cultures, he begins to talk about things that you can do. Strategies, action steps, how to get started. When you're working with your organization and you're going, where do we go, what should we do, this is a pretty good place to start looking for those kinds of issues. Also, I'm just going to mention it here, Appendix D on page 197, he then talks about the management competencies that are needed for each of the quadrants. And that, I find those just to be wonderful, absolutely wonderful. All right, back with me, if you will, to page 85. I know we're jumping around a bit, but I wanted you to see that material. Good story he tells on 85, 6, and 7, and then he starts outlining the 6 steps on page 87. Let me make a comment or two about those. You'll see figure 5.2, you come back to that in a bit. But the six steps actually start on page 90. Reach consensus on the current culture. Don't press that too fast. Let people talk enough. You're going to give either my version of their assessment to a ministry, or you're going to give this version to a business. But in either case, you've got to do it to get it done for an assignment. But when you're really out there making it happen, it takes time. Give folks a chance to talk, to deal with what Argyris would call the undiscussables. Okay. Number 2, reach consensus on the desired future culture. Again, it's a dialogue. It's a process that you need. 3, determine what the changes will and will not mean. They have a way of describing that, and you can read it. Let me give you mine. It's real simple. KISS. And I know that's keep it simple, stupid, but I'm going to give it to you in a different way. K, what do we keep? I, what do we improve? S, what do we stop? S, what do we start? I have given that to pastors. I have used it with other kinds of organizations and faith-based and businesses. It just works. It's a good one. 4, Identify illustrative stories. Do not underestimate the power of that. Get a hold of the stories, the incidents, the pictures, the images that help to convey what the new culture is going to be. Then step 5, develop a strategic action plan. I used to have students write the it, we, me. What is it that we want to change? How do we have to change? And then the me, how am I going to have to change as the leader? Because change has to come in all those areas. I will say on page 99 and 100, he has some guidelines to consider. Do these carefully. All of them will work, and all of them could probably cause some difficulty if a group is not ready for it, or if it's used in a kind of a high-handed way. So look them over and think in terms of how would this work, how might this fail, okay? And 6, develop an implementation plan. Notice that's the last one. Because the plan is the end product of the process of discussing all of this. Let me see, what else? Okay, he has some supplementing material that you'll find on page 105. He's got quite the story there. My thought is, read from the story, take what you find, don't try to duplicate that, because there were a lot of things going on there. Pretty challenging. All right, let's see. And I think, yeah, okay. Which brings us to page 113. That's what I want you to see now. Top of the page, Chris Argyris, big name. You need to know this name. Undiscussable issues. And take time to look at this. The sacred cows, the things that we just never deal with, but sometimes are the things that are harming us. That's a marvelous piece. Chapter 6, I'm going to move ahead here. About halfway down through that first paragraph. It is possible to identify a desired culture and to specify strategies and activities designed to produce change, but without, here it is again, the change process becoming personalized, without individuals being willing to engage in new behaviors, without an alteration in the managerial competencies demonstrated in the organization's fundamental culture will not change. They have a second assessment in this book, and that's for the manager. Take a look at it for yourself. We don't use it, but you might want to look it over. It's a very powerful piece. Again, it is process. It is process. And he talks about these management skills, and they're just excellent. Get a hold of those as you begin to think of, what do I need if I'm going to develop changes in these various areas. Now, a little of this gets somewhat technical, if it gets technical and you say, I don't get it, then skip to the next paragraph. You'll be fine. Chapter 7, 139, just gives you a, what are they, 20 steps. They just repeat the whole thing. And the rest of it is appendix. Don't skip the appendices, look them over. That's basically the book. You need to think about it. You need to put it down, pick it up again, and if it connects with you, if you say, this chart, this way of thinking about organization helps me, I strongly want to recommend to you their newest book, Competing Values Leadership, in which they take each quadrant and talk about the ability to create, compete, control, collaborate. this is the follow-up. Excuse me, I just bumped the camera. I suppose you figured that out. To this. All right. Hope that's helpful.